Hey, welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I'm Steve Smith. I want to talk a little bit today about what I call the 4 F's of group building. Before I start, by the way, welcome to everyone. Welcome to all the new subscribers. I see that we keep having a lot of new people join, both on YouTube and over on Patreon. If you don't know what Patreon is and you want to come be with us over there, I always put the link down below. I put all the stuff that's on YouTube over there also, plus other stuff that you might be interested in and enjoy. Before we get started, a short announcement. I had to, as some of you know, I had to take a brief break from offering autographed copies of my books. Here's my books for those of you who don't know that I write books. That's what I do for a living, by the way. I don't make YouTube for a living, but I do enjoy it. Anyway, I write books, and I write books about preparedness and survival. And this series here, the Stonemont series, is about a CME that wipes out the world, and it talks about it explains in great detail in novel form. I'm working on the 6th one now. It's a work of fiction. It talks about how to prepare for, how to survive, and then how to rebuild after a total collapse of the world, as it were. And if you can survive the collapse of the world, you can survive pretty much anything. Well, anyway, I had to take a break from offering autographed copies. I just got inundated with so many other things. The deliveries were slow, and I think Amazon has kind of brought that back in line now, because that's who it's offered through. You can buy these certainly, on Amazon in either paperback or Kindle, but if you'd like autographed copies, I can now make them available again, including the most recent book, which is The Blessings of Freedom. The 4 books in the series, I'll show them real quick for those of you who don't know. The first is The Reversion. There you go. The second is The Revival. There you go. The third is The Renewal. The fourth is An Appeal to Heaven. I know you're probably getting glare off of that. And the fifth, the latest one, is The Blessings of Freedom by me, Stephen C. Smith. I've always put the link down below. If you want to look them up, they're both Kindle and paperback, like I said. But if you want to order autographed copies, the information is down below. You can do that. Just let me know what you'd like me to sign in them. Nothing naughty, but whoever you'd like me to make it out to, and a brief message if you'd like, I'd be happy to. So let me know. Those are back in the works. And by the way, I'm about 25% done with the next book, and it just seems to be flowing as other things in my life have settled down. So that's the business part. Now to the subject at hand. I just put a video up over on Patreon. I think I titled Family, Friends, and Favors, a Mafia Guide to Preparedness and Survival. And I go into quite a bit of detail. I'm putting it over there, and I'll give an explanation here. It's not my purpose to offend or insult anybody. But when I put these kinds of videos up on YouTube, I get far too many comments from people who come on with what I call their movie or wiki knowledge, saying, well, and trying to add things that just aren't right. Let me put it that way, just aren't right. There are a number of things in the world that people seem to be very intrigued with, but know very little about. And they sometimes think that having watched a lot of movies or read some books or read it up, whatever, that they're in the know, and then they want to share that, and they want to talk about it, and they want, all that. And I understand the interest, I really do. Because it is interesting, it is intriguing. I have a background that enables me to talk knowledgeably about this. Most people don't, and that's not a slam on those who don't. I mean, it's just one of those stay in your lane kind of things, right? There's plenty of things in the world that I don't know enough about to try to talk about or instruct or anything. And my purpose in this is to try to share my knowledge about this. And so what I explained over there, and it's just the first of what's going to have to be several videos probably, because I get into quite a bit of depth as far as the start of the mafia, what it really was, what it really means. Most people don't even know what mafia means. And the purpose, the different types, the reasons that it formed and how it functioned in different things. And they weren't all the same, and they weren't all bad, and they weren't all good. But I use the examples of the ones that I consider to be good. So anyway, I put that up over there because I think that it's one of the greatest lessons in forming a group, a true, the old style mafia family. And I don't mean the new style, not the stuff you see on Goodfellas and Casino and those, and not John Gotti and those kinds of things. That was much later, and it had very little to do with the original formation or the cause of the formation of the mafia families. But back to the old days, the origination, and so I cover that in quite a bit of detail, and I explain the difference, I explain the importance. Let me put it that way. I explain the importance of those rings that came together, that developed together to form an exceptionally loyal, dependable, and tight group. Okay, and that is family, friends, and favors. Now I'm going to add a fourth F at the end when I explain this. And I'm not going to go into as much detail here as I did over on Patreon, that's for sure, because it's not necessary. But when you're thinking about what really, if you want the tightest, the most loyal, the most dependable type of group, the lesson that we get from there, and I believe it, is your first ring is family. Now, I've also said not everybody's families are the same, right? And there's family and there's family, right? And I've also said that good friends beat bad family. So none of this is incontrovertible. But if you have a stable, and hopefully you do, and if you're creating a family of your own, you should pay a lot of attention and put a lot of effort and energy into ensuring that your nuclear family, you and your spouse and your children, are tight, and that you talk and that you share and that you teach those basic principles and values that you find to be important, among those being loyalty to each other, love and loyalty, right? And then the parents properly patterning, the roles that they assume, so that the children, as they grow up, can see that pattern and pass it on again, and the family grows. This is what the Italian families were so good at. And even most of the non-mafia families, the Italian families, were very good at it. So that's your first ring, your family. And now you have to take a hard look at this. When you're dealing with family, it depends on how they were raised. It depends on how they were when they came up as siblings and all of that. Some bonded very tightly, others didn't. And you have to take that into consideration, because a tight bond is what's important. Bond is more important than blood in this case. Okay. Now sometimes there can be bonds that were shaky, and all of a sudden something happens and the bond is more solidified because there's blood there, and that's great if that can happen. But you don't want to risk anything by including someone simply because they're family. Okay, look at the perfect example in The Godfather, which is probably the only mafia movie that I think is worth watching. The rest are they're a bunch of junk. I know I just offended some people out there. No, Goodfellas is great and Casino is great and no, they're not. Let me just say that, and I'm not going to get into detail on how I know. I explained a little bit of that over on Patreon. But The Godfather, which is fictional, and it's not all good, and it's just not right. It is based on a certain person that I use for examples on the Patreon. But look at the problems within that family. So but I'll be real honest. The families that I have known did not have those. They were not that dysfunctional. They were not. And I don't know why what's his name? Coppola, whatever his name is. I don't know why he chose to make it that way. Well, it was based on Mario Puzo's book, right? So I mean, Coppola had no real choice. I don't know why Puzo decided to do that, because most of the families of that nature that I've known were not dysfunctional like that. So you have your family. Start with that. Your next ring is your friends. Now, friends are different than acquaintances, and they're different than associates, right? Excuse me. Oh, by the way, I'm sitting here in the evening with my turkey and water on the rocks. And this particular wild turkey that I'm drinking tonight is rare breed. It's one of their top echelon ones. It's 116 proof, and it's got a taste that it's just great. I like bourbon. I don't like scotch. And as you can see, I drank it out of my fancy bourbon cup. So the next ring, like I say, is friends, not to be confused with acquaintances or associates. Friends. Friends are the ones that are so close to family, they're almost indistinguishable. I have a term for them, and that's framily. And we have some who are close to us that we consider framily. Those are the ones that will be there for you no matter what. Those are the ones that you are there for them, and you don't get to that point without having gone through some of those things. Okay, you can't just say, "Oh, I really like them. They were a wonderful couple. We had them over for dinner, or we went over to their place, and they're just great. They think the same thing. We talked about politics and religion and all this kind of stuff, and they're just so like us that we just feel like they're family." No, that's not it. Nobody becomes a friend until they have actually measured up to the friend post, right? Until they have come through at the time that a friend comes through. And ideally, a number of times. And if you are with people that, and in a variety of ways, I mean, it's not just, can you help me move the washer and dryer? It is that you get to the point to where you know about each other's lives, not the little stuff that only family knows, right? But you know enough about each other's lives that you see that there is an integrity between what they say and what they do. Integrity meaning integral. It fits. It is inseparable. That their actions match their words. It's the old, talk the talk and walk the walk. So that's your next one. And though the bond between family and framily, friends, is tight. They are the ones that, when it really goes down, they all come. They all come. Outside of that, you have associates, people that you've done business with, people that you just happen to know, these acquaintances. Usually an acquaintance is a social, and an associate is somebody with whom you do business. You can carve that up however you want, but it's on the outer part of that. Now, how do you develop that, and how do you develop more? You develop that with doing for people, being ready, being willing to do for people, to be there to help with whatever that is. It could be, sometimes it begins with, oh my gosh, my car won't start. Can you pick up my kids at school when you pick up yours? Yeah, you bet. You're going to be there, right? Little bit. And then it grows. But you watch this and you're very careful. And again, you don't let this become, oh man, I just love them. They're just great. They came through for me. Well, they were picking up their kid at the school anyway, and they just happened to be there, and they let your kid get in the car and gave them a ride home. So don't make more of it than is made. People have a tendency to make a lot more of small things than they really should. A lot of small things, without hesitation, without a problem, without a hiccup and all that, well, then they start to build up a pattern and a history and a relationship. Okay? So that is the doing for the favors. The favors. Be the one who is always willing to do the favor. That is at the core of the mafia family power structure. Now, if you saw, the Godfather is a good example of that. If you want good books, I did put this over on Patreon. I'll share it with you here. There are several good books that, if you really want to understand this stuff, I would recommend. The first is one by Joe Bonanno. He wrote it, but he didn't speak very good English, so he had to have somebody help him write it. But it's called Man of Honor, A Man of Honor. His son Bill Salvatore wrote another one called Bound by Honor. And then he wrote a second one, The Last Testament of Bill Bonanno. And then there's a fourth book that, if you really want to see, and this gets into the later part. Those were the old time guys, the ones that did it right. There's a more recent one by Salvatore Gravano. It's called Underboss. He was John Gotti's underboss. Sammy was the old school guy, the guy that had some honor. He killed a lot of people, but that doesn't mean you don't have honor. He was, he would have done a lot better if he hadn't been under Gotti, because Gotti, he wasn't the kind that we're talking about. Okay, he was one of the new style. It's all about money. It's all about flash. It wasn't about family, and we're talking about the original intent of family. So we have that's how favors. Favors were how the one always being able and willing to do the favor increased your influence among people, increased friendship among people. Okay, so we have the first three, and that's family, friends, and favors. And that might seem kind of mercantile, I suppose, but it's not. If you are a nice person and you don't necessarily do favors to get something back, okay, that's not the reason for that. You're just a person who does it. If you're a person who does it, you are going to build that third circle out there of the things you've done for people. And favors, the term favors is just an easy way to use it. Besides, it fits in with the F's, right? The last one that I don't include in the Mafia Guide, because it wasn't universally held among the men. It was held very tightly among the women, and that's faith. But with us, I move that to the first part. You have to have faith first. Seems like a title for a book maybe I read one time. I forget. If it's not, it would be a good title, wouldn't it? faith first. Now, people have faith in different things. My faith is in God and Jesus Christ. And for those of you who share that belief with me, you know exactly what I mean. If you're from another faith tradition, I hope your faith is important in that. This is not a place for the discussion of comparative faiths. But faith. You start with faith. When things go bad, you pray first. That's where the title of my 4th book came from. An appeal to heaven. Lord, things are going bad. Things are falling apart. Things are confusing. The world is falling around me. Help me. Show me. Protect me. Provide for me. Show me the way you would have me go. Use me for your purpose. That's the first step. Faith, family, who hopefully shares the same faith, not just the belief system, but the same depth of faith. If you have a family, if you have and then friends, I'll include them too. If you have a group, if you have a family and friends who share the same bedrock faith, relying on God for their needs, their direction, their deliverance, you've got a formula that's hard to beat. Because no matter what you're going through, the ability to sustain yourself through it and be sustained is unparalleled. So that's it. Faith, family, friends, favors. Those are the steps to building a tight, strong, sustainable, almost unshakable group. I think I'll leave it there for now because there's really not more for me to say. I leave your comment. I'm sure that many of you feel the same way I do. Some of you may feel differently. That's okay. You will come at it from your experiences. Love to hear what you have to say. So think about that. Think about how that applies to your life. Think about what you can do. If you seem like you're coming up a little bit short in one of those areas or more than one, take a look at it. See how you can strengthen that. See how you can support that more. See how you can integrate those different things together to make that strong group and strong bond that you need to really get through a hard time. Because I think, the possibility we have hard times coming, it's getting more and more possible, more and more probable. So let me know what you think. Put your comments down below, because people learn not just from watching the video, but reading the comments. And for any of you new people out there, do read the comments. We have some just exceptionally smart people here. They are exceptionally bright, and they are thoughtful. And some of them leave comments like, whoa. And I'll tell you what, they are worth reading every word. So you all have a good night. I'll probably get back and talk to you tomorrow. Until then, remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. So prepare these 4 F's, and your tomorrows are probably going to be able to be lived pretty well. You all have a good night. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.